Funding for the production of Folks is provided in part by the Friends of LPB.
Up front today, we'll be talking to two incredible talents, the extraordinary husband-wife acting team of Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis. We continue our celebration of Black History Month with a look at the now extinct Leland University, one of Louisiana's oldest black colleges. Then it's off to New Orleans, where Genevieve Stewart will be putting us in the Mardi Gras spirit as she tells us all about the original Illinois Club. I'm Rob Hinton, and we'll have those stories today on Folks.
Everybody says folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just people all over the world. Folks who live, folks got to give, folks got to care, folks got to share. Our world is small, so very small. What touches one of us, who touches us all? To stay alive, just to survive, folks got to be in harmony. Everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just folks, everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just folks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Folks. Up front today, we'll be talking to an extraordinarily talented acting team. That team, as I'm sure you know by now, is none other than Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis. Recently, the Davises performed before a live audience in the Union Theater at LSU here in Baton Rouge, and that's where we got the chance to talk to them. Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis are probably this country's most celebrated husband-wife black acting team. They have won notable accolades in the theater and have performed successfully on television and movies both together and separately. Davis is an actor, playwright, and director of stage and screen. He has starred in films and television series including Teacher, Teacher and The Defenders. He is probably most famous as author and star of Pearly Victorious. Dee starred in both the Broadway and movie versions of Lorraine Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun. Here, the acting team are talking to some aspiring actors and actresses at a workshop at LSU. It is there we get a chance to chat with them. As children growing up, was it your dream to become actors?
No, I didn't think about it at all. I always wanted to be a writer then. I'd like to be a writer now.
You are a writer. I knew already.
Acting got involved in it some way, but I never thought too much about it.
What made you decide?
I was instructed by a professor who determined from my accent that I was from the Deep South, that if I wanted to learn to write for the theater and had had no experience with the theater, I would need to get some kind of experience as an actor, whatever. So I joined the theater company, and among the things that I did to prepare myself as a writer was acting. And so one thing led to another, downhill all the way.
What made you decide?
Oh, I think I kind of drifted into it. You know, I came up with a mother who used to be a teacher, and she had us writing and reciting and taking music and all that kind of thing. And I think when you expose kids to enough stuff, you find out what they kind of drift to naturally. And I kind of I drifted into it. I started writing poetry when I was about, young. And you know, in those days we didn't have television sets, and when in those days I'm pre-television. I think I'm pre-radio, but I'm not sure. Anyway, when people would come to the house before the adults, you know, they would have company. Before you could be excused to go do your homework or your chores or go play, you had to do something, and you had to show them your report card, or sing, or dance, or play the violin, or recite a poem. So I was wound up reciting and playing the violin with my brother.
Acting itself is a very difficult field to break into. Can you tell us what the opportunities are like now for black actors?
Dire. But better than they were when we came along. There's been changes. There are more opportunities, more chances on Broadway and television motion pictures, but not nearly enough opportunities if you think of the wealth of talent that is available. If you think of the, well, take one production, Roots. There were many young, gifted performers who came, blazed across the horizon for that brief period, and disappeared, never heard from again. That is too often still the case.
I kind of think I try to be a little more. I am more hopeful, you know, because else, you know, I'd be, my throat would be, you know, cut or something. But I think that we have to stop looking at the opportunities that exist and concentrate on making opportunities and treading ground that hasn't been tread before for a while, you know. We have to believe that we can make it, and we have to find the avenues and go into and investigate things like distribution and production and in-house participation in the arts, so that our part in the arts does not depend on what racism dictates. We have to start making our. We have to believe in the expectation, and work toward that goal, and so it means innovation. It means it means reading a great deal, so because that stimulates you. And what is it that you want to do? I don't think it's just enough to want to be an actor, say, or a singer. I think it pays to want to do something, to want to see something done that you think will be effective and people will like.
Here, Ruby Dee tells the students about some of the roles she has played.
I like being Ossie's play for the Victorians because I had a chance to touch a dimension of myself that I did not explore before. That's the humor in the black experience. That's the humor of being black. The satire, the absolute delicious fun of it, and also I found out that I was a humorist, so it hit a kind of note in me. I enjoyed doing Bruce and Lana, April P. Godspeed's, because it was a multi-dimensional. It was a four-layer, four-strata. It was women. It was colored. It was South African.
She also talked to us about the portrayal of blacks on TV.
There are some opportunities that exist, you know, but when my thoughts on television, I think the opportunities for most performers, no matter what the color of the performer, is limited, you know, in terms of daily fare. I think there have been some good films, and blacks are included in the what I call the formula. You know, there's a black and a woman and something futuristic and some mystery or murder, or, you know, and you get the formula, put them all in, and everybody goes, and so that. But I think we have to. And there's some inclusion, but not nearly enough. And black women are almost totally excluded. I mean, I did Jimmy Baldwin's Go Tell It on the Mountain. I'll see you can butt in when I'm talking too much. And when I looked at people like Rosalind Cash and Olivia Cole and the new people coming up like Alfred Woodard and C.J. Pounder, and also our good friend who did Jimmy's father, Paul Winfield, and your heart can break because we were working in that. I had another reason for working in it, but we work. The money was so small, the salary was so minuscule, and the opportunity so rare that these beautifully gifted and trained performers had to do it. I mean, there's little choice. There's so many people for the few roles that exist that have of substance even, and But again, I look to the future. I look to ownership. I look to of getting some of the cable franchises, if cable indeed is going to survive. I look to independent productions done in basements, because product is what's going to make the difference for us, I think. We're going to have to believe in something enough to do it in our living room if we have to. The idea must move us, and because the medium is so needs material at such an enormous rate, so we've got to be in the business of supplying programming, and that's where our heads are. We're trying to do that.
Which aspect of the stage and screen appeals to you the most? Directing, performing, or writing?
Writing, without a doubt. Then directing, and finally, acting.
Why the emphasis on writing?
Well, I don't know. Writing is like a genetic misfortune. You're born with it, and there's nothing you can do to get out of your system but write. I don't think anybody writes because he wants to. He writes because, somehow he's got to. At least it works that way for me. So, writing, number one.
Now, the Davises are really wonderful people, real down to earth. If you ever get an opportunity to see them perform in person, please go. It'll definitely be worth your while. Time now for our Pause for Pride segment, which this week takes us to Baker, Louisiana, where we visit the ruins of Leland University, one of Louisiana's oldest black colleges. This is all that is left of Leland University, one of Louisiana's oldest black colleges. 3 dilapidated buildings: the boys' dormitory, the girls' dormitory, and the convention hall. The grounds today are pretty much like a ghost town, and although it doesn't look like much, for Leland alumni, the setting holds a lot of memories.
Everybody knew everybody, and it was just like a big family. And just like a big family, and everybody knew everybody, and they looked like if they, appreciated everybody. And we went to school. In fact, I had to drive a little Ford car, to school, and bring the other sisters and brothers, to school. And just had a nice time. And but they was really strict. You had to learn. That's one thing. You knew when you left Leland, you knew what you was doing, because they taught you. It was just strict.
Leland University, or what's left of it, is located on Groom Road in Baker, Louisiana. It hasn't always been there. The first site of the school was the Tulane Avenue Baptist Church in New Orleans. Later, the university moved to a 10-track acre near Audubon Park on St. Charles Street. This was University Hall, one of the campus's 2 main buildings. Inside this structure were the chapel, the president's office, the library, and housing facilities for professors and male students. This was Chamberlain Hall, named for Holbrook Chamberlain of Brooklyn, New York, who founded the school in 1870. Inside this building were the music rooms and housing facilities for female teachers and students.
And in 1915, a storm came and blew the buildings down. So from that time, they were searching for a home. And some property was purchased in Alexandria, Louisiana, alongside Red River. And because of the war and what have you, right after, rather, the Civil War, right after World War I, material was short, and they were not able to get the material to build a school. And they found the location in Baker, Louisiana, in 1923, and there it opened.
Reverend Lee did not attend Leland University, but the school was the focus of his master's thesis while he attended Southern University.
All of my early education came from teachers who graduated from Leland. And I can recall very vividly during my elementary days that those teachers were so much prepared until they could just sit on the floor with a matchbox and write a lesson plan. And they were very much qualified. And even in college, I had teachers who attended Leland. So my interest came from these qualified black teachers who came from this teacher education school.
Leland had many notable graduates. One of them, Grambling State University's head football coach Eddie Robinson. He attended back in the early 40s. This is the school picture then.
The institution was surrounded around education. There were teachers and preachers attending the school, and there were extracurriculum, there was sports, track, football, basketball and what have you, and that's where Eddie Robinson at Grambling got his start at the school. And they had a well-rounded curriculum. I recall in my research that Leland used to play Baton Rouge High here in Baton Rouge at one time, and there was a close connection in sports between Leland and Southern University. So, and I found that it was a very close school, close family. Everyone on the Leland campus knew everyone. You know, good discipline school. And from this small population there, that it grew to be a very lovely family.
Ollie Chase is a graduate from 1950.
We had to walk to school on very cold mornings, but when we got there, the rooms were warm and the teachers were very warm, and that was the thing that I liked so much about Leland. They made us feel like we were somebody. Everybody was somebody.
This diploma belongs to one of the first graduates of Leland at its Baker location. Dorothea Carter was also one of the first graduates of the Groom Road site, and she recalls graduation day.
Graduation was fine, because see, this is the first time we've had a real graduation at Leland, and we had on our long gowns, you know, robes, I mean, and it was just wonderful. And then all our parents came to see what was going on, you know, and all the people of the community came in, and to see what Leland was all like. See, because they didn't have a chance to visit Leland very much, but on graduation day they all came in and see what Leland was all about and see the children graduate.
We had what we called baccalaureate, and at that time, baccalaureate Sunday was held at Mount Zion, and Reverend Jemison was the speaker at that time. And I almost missed the line of march, and that would have been quite a disappointment for me. And of course, a commencement was held on a separate day. And after commencement, we had little parties, as young people have today.
So what led to Leland's demise? Well, it was a tune that many of us are all too familiar with nowadays.
The lack of finance. The school folded up in 1960 under President R. Douglas Thomas, and it all gears back to the lack of finance. Now, I found out in my research that because of Southern being so close and a free institution, and LSU also was a free institution at this time, and that was a tuition to be paid at Leland, most families at this time began to, send their children to a free school. The other thing that I found out that there was a neglection in contribution, from blacks during the 40s and the 50s, and we depended most upon American Baptist Convention, who supported Leland throughout his career, throughout the history of the school. And because of this lack of finance, it couldn't go any further. It pulled up pegs and had to close its doors.
And although the campus is abandoned, all about Leland is not forgotten.
When we went out in the state to work, the Leland folk got more honor. They say if they came from Leland, they know what they're doing. And I remember the principal at Dale High. The children are saying something, and they say, Miss Ellis said that. You say, well, if Miss Ellis said it, it's all right.
May I add, along the line of what Mrs. Carter said, the classes were very small, and we had an opportunity to have so much input. We could not get by in many of the large classes in other institutions. Sometimes the instructors don't even know the students, but we knew all of the teachers, and all of the teachers knew us, and we could certainly go to them for extra assistance out of class, and they were very helpful along that line.
I deeply regret that it's not around now. I think about Spelman and Benedict and other colleges that came along with us, Xavier, and all, came out of the Civil War conditions still existing. And this school right here that had played such a great contribution to black preachers and black school teachers, you know, and it had to close. I'm very sorry for this in doing my research, because the impact that Leland had upon human minds.
If you haven't found the Mardi Gras spirit yet, maybe this next story will help. It's a story that Genevieve Stewart did last year on the original Illinois Club in New Orleans. And with this being Mardi Gras weekend, well, we thought this might be a good opportunity to share it with you once again.
The Mardi Gras season represents many things to both observers and participants. It's a time for flamboyant costumes, lively second lines, and brass bands playing in fabulous parades. It's also a time for elegant balls and the hundreds of Mardi Gras clubs which help to stage this world-class event. Recently, we visited the rehearsal for one of New Orleans' oldest debutante balls. The original Illinois Club of New Orleans is this country's oldest black social and civic club, certainly that's still in existence. The Illinois is about to celebrate its 90th anniversary. It draws its membership from as far away as Gulfport, Mississippi, all the way to Breaux Bridge, Louisiana, and its members are very proud of their fine traditions. Its founder, Wiley Knight, came from Chicago to organize a school of the dance for Negroes. Prior to 1894, there were no carnival balls for blacks, only square dances and quadrilles. So Knight met with a group of domestic workers in a parlor to organize a club for the presentation of young black women to New Orleans society. The group met in the parlor of Mrs. Harriet Robinson, who served as the Illinois Club's first president. The first Illinois Club ball was held in the Old Globe Hall. The archives state it was an imposing sight, decorated dramatically with American flags and ferns, with a gleaming waterfront in the background. The Illinois Club members are well versed in its history and take its purpose of presenting debutantes quite seriously.
The club was founded by the late Wiley Knight, who had lived in Chicago, Illinois for some time as a domestic servant, let us put it that way, with a prominent white family. And when Mr. Knight returned to New Orleans, he trying to, with the change of time, you know, this wasn't too long after the Civil War, after Reconstruction and so forth, he was asked by his, and prompted by his employers, why don't you, when you go back, do something culturally for your people? And he certainly did. He organized a school of the dance. Now, the school of the dance originally was coeducational, if we could put it that way, in its membership. There were ladies and gentlemen in the club, and by the way, the first president was a woman. And in 1894, it was organized. In 1895, the first ball was given and presentation.
What is the significance of the Illinois Club to you personally?
Well, to me, it's a vehicle for bringing young ladies out into society in the city of New Orleans. And at one time, we didn't have many clubs that did this thing. But we are first and foremost in what we do.
Hundreds of black Mardi Gras clubs have come into existence in later years, but few have retained the customs regarding ballroom behavior. The Illinois Club's members and Debs present a tableau before a seated black tie audience. This narrated play depicts events of historical significance, complete with a magnificent set and costumes. Tableau themes in recent years have been In a Moorish Garden, King Arthur's Court in Camelot, Madame Butterfly, Caesar Returning to Rome, and The Daughter of Nefertiti, all reenacted within the strict cordons of ballroom etiquette before 2,000 guests. Although we visited an informal rehearsal, we can surely imagine the pageantry of the actual grand ball. Mr. BYNUM, do you feel that the traditions of the Illinois are being lost on younger people nowadays?
Not so much. From what I understand about the old men in the club, it was very much more traditional in the old days. But there are still those who believe in introduction to society and the things we do in introducing these young ladies to society. Other clubs do more things that where they have more audience participation. But we are primarily involved in presenting these young ladies, and we have more of a seated audience. And what we do is our thing.
And they do their thing quite well. One of the highlights of the ball is the dancing of the Chicago Glide. The dance was choreographed by the club's founder in 1894. It has been performed at every original Illinois ball for 90 years. The Chicago Glide is their hallmark and trademark. Although the Illinois Club is recognized as the oldest and foremost black club of its kind, its members feel they do not receive the attention of their counterpart crews in the New Orleans white community. The club's president explained their sentiments.
Do you feel that the historical significance of the club is lost in present-day black history?
I don't think it's lost, but I don't think we have the emphasis that we should place up on an organization like this, in that here is an organization, like I stated before, was chartered in 1894, has been together with a strong tradition for almost 100 years, and I think this type of thing should be brought out just like the Rex Club is highlighted each year and brought out. I think the original Illinois Club deserves to have more emphasis and attention in this community.
With a tremendous amount of ceremony and pageantry involved in all Mardi Gras clubs, many groups are concerned that younger generations are not interested in continuing the traditions. But the original Illinois Club isn't worried about its future.
And you feel that there will be interest among younger men in the community to carry on the membership in future years?
I surely hope so, because we do have some young men in the club now. We have one as young as 34 years old. And then there are some sons of some of the older members who will be coming into the club soon.
Are you making any plans now for your centennial?
Yes, as a matter of fact, our last meeting we just talked about a 10-year plan and what we want to do over the next 10 years in being able to really, in 1994, do something very strong for the community and for our club.
How many years have you been a member of the original Illinois Club?
I've been a member of the club 18 years now, since 1966.
And would you trade its membership for anything?
For nothing in this world.
Well, that does it for this week. Thanks very much for watching. Next week, another Pause for Pride report as we conclude our Salute to Black History Month. Have a happy and safe Mardi Gras, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Funding for the production of Folks is provided in part by the Friends of LPB.